Hello, everyone, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is Maintaining Frame number 88. Are you abrosexual? Korean feminists prefer patriarchy, submit to woke AI. I guess we have like a little bit of a variety of topics to talk about.
Yes, we have a
smorgasbord.
Great minds think alike.
Oh yeah, that sounds a lot better now. Did you change mics?
Yeah, I did, but
Let's do it again.
Oh no, yeah. You're a little lower, but it sounds good.
Change mics. Okay, well,
Okay.
I mean, I can always increase the gain a bit here. There we go. How's that?
That sounds good.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Then this is what it shall be. Yeah, it's a little smorgasbord. It's a buffet of items, shall we say?
A buffet.
A buffet. A little bit of this, a tapas. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, appetizers. Hors d'oeuvres.
Oh, it's a poo-poo platter of poo-poo.
It's a poo-poo.
You know what a poo-poo platter is? I used to, when I used to eat like lots of Chinese food, you could get a poo-poo platter. It was kind of like I think it was just like a bunch of appetizers, like little bits of appetizers. So if you want to try, this or that, it's a poo-poo platter. That's what it is. Poo-poo spelled P-U-P-U. But it smelled good.
No, I got it.
It didn't smell like poo-poo.
I got it. It was a good poo-poo platter.
It was a good, yeah.
Not such a good poo-poo platter.
Yeah, it's more like poo-poo.
Yeah, it's more
but
like
anyway,
with O's. Yeah.
Yeah.
The bad poo.
So what's today? Today's Monday. Holy cow! It feels like a Wednesday to me. I don't know.
Yeah, already. Like you just.
It does. It feels like, oh my god, the week is just beginning. I'm just like, oh.
So
god.
much emotional labor that you've done that it feels like it's a Monday.
I have done my share of emotional labor. That is true.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
well, we're about to do some more.
Yeah. So, do you want to thing the things in the meantime?
Yeah, sure. I will thing the things. Okay, so everybody, please send your super chows through feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Do it. Do it now. Because it really helps us out and it's the best way to send your messages to us. So tell us we're not screaming into the void by doing so, by sending your super chows at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. We are also doing our monthly fundraiser at feedthebadger.com/support. So make sure we can keep giving you this delectable content. This poo-poo platter of poo-poo.
Yes.
Yes. At feedthebadger.com/support. Support the Badgers platter of poo.
Let me just make sure I got the I have the super chow stuff open, so
okay,
if you put a super chow through, I will give you Badger Chan and read it for you. And a shout out to the Rumble gang as always.
Yeah, thanks
for supporting us over there. What?
We're getting a certain amount of people through Twitter too, so thank you to the people tuning in Twitter.
I'm trying to figure out how to connect the chat. I think Twitter needs. I mean, it wasn't made for this, but it's hard to connect the chat to Twitter.
It might be made, like Elon might address that in the future, or I guess whoever he has as the CEO. But it is, yeah. There's not much chatting going on Twitter at this point. It's not really focused on that. It seems to be focused more on like roundtables of people talking rather than texting. So I know that is a bit different, but shout out to everybody who's watching us on Twitter. Thank you for tuning in. And feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a message and give us the full benefit of whatever tip you want to send us. And feedthebadger.com/support to keep the poo-poo humming.
Oh no. Now we're gonna get a bunch of poo-poo emojis in the chat.
I even made myself cringe. Oh,
that's
God.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into so we got 3 things, right? How much time we could like set up a certain amount of time to devote to each thing.
Oh, do we have any like bingo stuff either? Like that might be fun.
I didn't say.
Yeah, it's okay. Never mind. No bingo today, guys. But yeah, let's see how quickly we can get through the cut. Like maybe put it at like half an hour.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because
All right.
this
Let's
is the
bring it
long
up.
one.
Yeah.
This is the long one, I think.
It's so long. It's like
We won't.
it's basically a story, and this is the thing that annoys me about like a lot of these. I don't know, articles that are kind of feminist articles is that they always unfold like some massive. It's like War and Peace, and they don't get to the point until like I don't know when. It's actually kind of sprinkled in, and then by the time it's over, I guess it's like a magic spell that just takes a long time to cast, like some kind of ritual that takes hours, and then by the end you're supposed to be completely transformed by the experience. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm
it's just
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's just endless. And
yeah.
in order, let me just cut right to the chase because let me just
Cut right to the cut.
cut right to the cut. All right, so women don't want to pair up and have children in this society that gives them all the freedom and mobility they could ever ask for, right? So they don't want to actually really take part in continuing this society that gives women freedom. That's what they're saying here. They say, oh, we don't want to support patriarchy, but this society that they live in right now is the least patriarchal according to their estimation or whatever they call patriarchal. I don't buy into that, but according to what they term patriarchal for feminists, this is the least patriarchal society ever in human existence, and they refuse to perpetuate it by pairing up and having children. So what they're saying is that patriarchy is essential for human reproduction. What they term to be patriarchy is essential for human reproduction. This is what they're saying. At the end of the day, feminists do not want to support a world of women's freedoms. They don't want to have men. They don't want to pair up with men. They don't want to have children. Therefore, whatever society that has constructed this situation where women have freedom, they're using that freedom to essentially ensure that it implodes. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I mean it's a self-defeating set of ideas. It's like a woman moment on the scale of generations for as long as they last, which is literally one.
Exactly. It's like we have achieved a society in which women enjoy the greatest amount of freedom and influence. Now, I would argue that I think that's probably illusionary, but that's what they think, according to their own scale, the greatest amount of freedom and influence, and they don't want to breed in it, and they don't want to do anything to continue it. Because apparently women don't breed in freedom, they breed in patriarchy. Okay, well, self-defeating much, yes. So I just wanted to lay that out because I think it just cuts right to the chase.
Yeah.
They're determining that this society of freedom is not going to perpetuate itself into the future. Congratulations, Korean feminists. I guess the big lesson we'll learn from all of this is that the human race needs patriarchy to reproduce.
Well, I should give them a little background. So this article is from the New Yorker. I guess they have a sub page called The Cut, and it's entitled "A World Without Men. The Women of South Korea's 4B movement aren't fighting the patriarchy. They're leaving it behind entirely." So we're talking about women in South Korea who are basically going MGTOW or WGTOW. And how will the New York Magazine or The Cut frame this? Imagine if there was a group of men, theoretically, that, like, I don't know, decided they were going to walk away from marriage and relationships. I know you couldn't dream of such a thing actually happening, but if it did happen in the off chance, how would it be reported on? Like, what would the media say about that? Well, just grasping here.
No, I think I get what you're. I think I get it. Also, what I've noticed is that when men talk about leaving relationships entirely, it's almost like there's the initial flush of these are demons, and then it goes silent because I don't think the media wants to spread that message.
Yeah.
At all. This message it wants to spread, though. So we're going to have a loving dissertation of the choices behind women deciding that men who are part of the society in which women are most free are the least desirable.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it really comes down to. They don't want to perpetuate a society that gives women freedom, and they don't find the men who are raised and part of a society that gives them freedom to be attractive. So let's continue.
All right, so this article is written by, huh? Say what?
Oh, I said just read.
Oh yeah. So this article is written by Anna Louise Sussman. I'll just go into it. Young Mi's childhood was a difficult one. The 25-year-old nurse was born to a poor family in Daegu, South Korea, known for being one of the most conservative cities in the country. Young Mi's mom left the home when Young Mi was young to escape her husband's physical abuse, leaving her and her sister behind with him and their paternal grandmother. When she was 5, her 8-year-old sister started losing her hair from stress. As she grew older, Young Mi found herself depressed, unsure of what her future held, and financially unstable. In Korea's patriarchal society, in which women are generally expected to defer to their fathers and to adhere to rigid beauty standards, she felt like a perpetual victim, obsessed by the wrongs done to her by her father and pressured into maintaining her appearance in order to please men. Despite her meager budget as a nursing student, she purchased new clothes each season, spending a lot of money on cheap, poor quality clothes from H&M. She wore makeup religiously. I could not go outside without any makeup. I felt ashamed of my face, she said. I had this pressure of wanting to look beautiful and wanting to be desirable physically or sexually.
Okay.
Now, of course, I'm just going to put out there, we have to take all of this, like, without, without any evidence or anything. It's just, huh?
We just accept it. We just have to accept it.
Yeah, we got to take it at face value, full stop, like, all of this, everything about her mom and her dad, everything, all of it.
The pressure not to wear makeup was now patriarchal. Like, the condemnation of women. Remember the whole pick-me thing? The pick-me's who were like, I don't need makeup, are the ones.
Yeah, that was patriarchal too, yeah.
Yeah, that's patriarchal too.
While scrolling through Twitter in 2018, Young Mi came across footage of protests taking place on the streets of Seoul. In South Korea, where cases of femicide, revenge porn, and dating violence are widespread, a surge in spy cam sex crimes, overwhelmingly committed by men, had mostly well, actually, I appreciate the fact that they're even saying overwhelmingly committed, because it at least suggests that some women do it too. But I would have presumed that it's probably like not, that this is still an overestimation. Had mostly resulted in fines and suspended jail sentences if they were prosecuted at all. That was not the case, however, for one 25-year-old woman who had taken a non-consensual photo of a nude male model at art school and posted it online. She was sentenced to 10 months in prison and court-ordered sexual violence counseling. The demonstrations were a reaction to the blatant hypocrisy. Whoa. So apparently there was a story of a woman who took a picture of a nude male model and she was sentenced to prison, and they're calling it hypocritical because there is a claim that there are these kinds of things happen all over the place, but they still were resulted in fines and suspended jail sentences. So I don't get it. Like, there must be more to that story. I'm not even gonna accept that at face value. Young Mi was moved by the solidarity.
I think it's as simple as this: that sex crime law is not supposed to be used against women.
Yes.
Women shouldn't have to get consent from men. Like, what is this? Like, honestly, this paragraph is total bullshit. A woman, they're having a protest over a woman being charged with a crime that she actually did. What is your problem? Seriously.
Yeah.
This is what you're protesting. You're mental. I just wanted to say that because this is ridiculous. She actually did the crime. She should do the time. It doesn't matter if most men are charged with it, because we probably don't know if most men are the majority of people who commit it are men, but the majority perhaps are charged with it, even though I have seen statistics suggesting that the majority of people who engage in revenge porn are women, right? Fair enough. It doesn't matter. She did
Yeah,
the crime. She's not
Yeah.
exempt from it because more men do it. That's not how law works. This is more
Yep.
woman moment.
This whole thing is a woman moment.
Okay.
All right, I'll keep going. Young-mi was moved by the solidarity that she saw, but there was one thing she found perplexing. Many of the women at the protest shaved their heads on camera. As she began to follow more feminist Twitter accounts, Young-mi understood this was a public act of rejection of those same aesthetic expectations imposed on Korean women that have made the country a leader in grooming products and plastic surgery. She began to realize that, men do not do that. Men do not feel the pressure to buy clothes every season or wear makeup. Yeah, but who's putting that pressure on women? They're just like everywhere else. This is so weird. It's like women, like, sorry ladies, but most of the beauty standards that you claim are put on you by men are put on you by other women that are sexually competing with you or the top men. And if you just altered your expectations, you'd probably be fine. Like, honestly, it's not men doing this. Men are too easy to satisfy, in my opinion. And in Korea, I assume it's like China and Japan, where the beauty industry is massive, but again, not because men are imposing it, it's because women choose it. South Korea is probably one of the more materialistic countries. I mean, she's complaining about shopping in H&M. I mean, isn't that kind of a expensive store? I mean, it's not Target. She's not getting Walmart blouses, right? She's not going to fucking Marshall's or whatever. I don't know. What's a cheap place? Kohl's?
Well, just thrift.
What?
Like, I don't understand this huge pressure. Like, am I completely patriarchy proof?
Yeah, you are.
Because I'm an absolute
or you're completely you've absorbed the patriarchy completely, and it no longer phases you.
It no longer affects me.
You've internalized it to the point where it's become a singularity.
So I've internalized the patriarchy so much that I've become a complete slob who doesn't care.
Yeah, coming out the other end.
Yeah, okay. That makes perfect sense to me. Like, I don't give a fuck at this point.
How?
Aside,
if anybody knows, I know there was one guy who watches us sometimes who lives in South Korea, and he was in the chat. He's in the chat sometimes, but the time difference makes it hard for him to see these things live. How bad is feminism in South Korea? I think it's really bad there. I think it's probably one of the worst.
Have you seen?
I know the MRAs there are really like, it's like India where they're like really prominent. There's a lot of this going on. And that would, I can only assume that that's because it is in a way a response to how feminist it's gotten. What were you going to say? Have I seen what?
Well, okay, there's a couple things I want to say. The South Korea separation between men and women's politics is the worst in the world, apparently.
Oh yeah, that's right. We looked at that. Yes.
They're speed running into like
collapse.
Extreme liberalism. No, not, I don't know, collapse, maybe, yes.
Oh, you mean the women? The women are?
Let me call it what it is. Extreme neoliberalism. Or neolibs. They're becoming the absolute jackboot neolibs of the universe. And men are going into soft conservatism. Like, they're going the other way.
And but not that much. It's very slight.
Not that much. It's the big. Well, in South Korea, they're sort of diving there. The men are not taking it or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's the most extreme divergence in all the politics.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the women are going so far. Like they're going so far left. They're basically heading towards North Korea. In fact, here's an interesting bit of trivia. South Korea has the worst replacement rates in the world. Worse than North Korea. Worse than North Korea. North Korea is making more babies. Like they're not good, but they're better than South Korea. And it got bad enough in North Korea that Kim Jong-un gave a tearful speech begging women to have babies. So even like the most authoritarian nut job dictator has to ask women to please make babies.
Yep.
What were you gonna say?
Yeah, even North Korea isn't Handmaid's Tale, guys.
Yes,
Like,
even North
wait,
Korea
what?
hasn't become the Handmaid's Tale.
Okay, so I actually found this article from CNN. Over the past decade, South Korean men lead the world's male beauty market, which doesn't surprise me. Like, they both South Korea has this really big thing about this kind of ethereal beauty for both sexes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, like if you want to go totally patriarchal, you could just do what I do. Why don't you just become slobs, South Korea? You know, then you might like each other again. Just slob it out. Like who the fuck who is this woman? What's her name again? Have you tried being a slob? Like
Yeah, right.
like instead of just rejecting all men, why don't you be a slob and see if there are any men who, you know, wouldn't mind slobbing with you? Because there may be, you know, it might be possible. Okay, let's continue.
All right. Let's see. Soon, young me shaved her head too and stopped wearing makeup, joining the so-called escape the corset movement happening amongst young women in South Korea. The movement, which first gained popularity in 2018, saw Korean women publicly turn away from society imposed beauty standards by cutting their hair short and going barefaced. Young Mi was not alone. In 2019, a survey found, there's a link, that 24% of women in their 20s reported cutting back their spending on beauty products in the previous year, with many saying they no longer felt they needed to put in the effort. This eventually led Young Mi to 4B, a smaller set but growing movement amongst Korean women. 4B sounds like a K-pop band, doesn't it? Like that, like isn't that like the kind of names that those K-pop bands have? 4B, and there's like 4 ball chicks. Get it? 4B, B is in bald. Does that I think that would work. Anyway, sorry. 4B is shorthand for 4 Korean words that all start with B or no. The first no, bihan, is the refusal of heterosexual marriage. Bichulsan is the refusal of childbirth. Bionai or Bione is saying no to dating, and bisexu is the rejection of heterosexual sexual relationships. It is both an ideological stance and a lifestyle, and many women I spoke to extend their boycott to nearly all the men in their lives, including distancing themselves from male friends. I don't know why I'm laughing at this. It's so retarded.
They're distance themselves from all the men who create their utilities.
So you can join a political lesbian club and shave your head, and
that seems like a lot of effort. Like seriously, why don't they just do my route? I became a slob, found a man, and here I am. Like I literally met Jonathan. I was wearing flannel and army boots and jeans. Okay, like you can do it. You don't have to look like an ethereal ghost creature. Just the issue is that you have to accept a man who doesn't want that, and you may not want the man who doesn't want that. And also, shaving your head is a lot of damn work. It's a lot of work. Shaving your head, being angry, going to protests, getting attention this new way.
In your 20s?
Oh, I guess she has the energy for that shit in her 20s, sure.
Yeah, I know, but like, oh my gosh, like, you, I don't know. It makes me sad, actually. It actually really makes me sad that these women are doing this to themselves. But
they want attention. Like honestly, this is just another way to get attention. Making themselves out to be victims of patriarchy is just another way to get attention from men. Like, really, honestly, if they didn't want attention from men, they would just do what I did. Just forget it. Like, no makeup. No, I'm just gonna do my thing, live my life, and what happens, happens. But this isn't what they're doing because they still are addicted to the attention. Okay.
Yep. So I got some I want to read the super chows because I did get some, and I missed one of them. It disappeared before I could like put it up there. So let me read it really quick. Carlos with an exclamation mark. So I got to say it like Carlos gave us $5 and says, "Oh look, the women's are going their own way for the 150th time." Lols. It is a little sad, isn't it? And then Richard Bier gives us $5 and says, women in South Korea are so empowered that to keep up with the workload of being empowered, some are getting an intravenous drip to keep them functioning. Yay, feminism and the empowerment it brings. And then I also have a super chat. Let me just put that up on the screen there. From Gary Thomas. And he says, how feminist, for $5, how feminist is South Korea? Well, the first female president of South Korea was arrested for being a member of a literal feminist cult. So there's that. Was it like a cult, like they have like a sacrificial daggers and goblets and stuff and like hoods, and they did seances and danced around an idol, or preferably one of Baphomet or Moloch? Was it that kind of cult? Because, I mean, if you're going to get arrested for being in a cult, it should look cool. You know? You should have red robes with gold fringe. I'm just saying. Or whatever the Korean colors are. That sounds a little Chinese. Anyway, so that's the super chat. Should I keep going? Allison, are you there? Did you mute? Allison is muted.
Yes, I'm muted. Sorry, I was muted. Okay. Right. No, keep going. Like, if you can't hear me, just read.
All right. I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, no, I know. We got to get this, like, timing right. It's just... Yeah. Sometimes you keep reading and I want to talk. It's just a matter of we're not in the same room, really.
All right. Yeah, that's true. Through open chat groups like Kakao Talk, Youngmi connected with other feminists in Daegu. I'm probably butchering all of these Korean pronunciations, by the way. Where she lived with her mother while attending nursing school, soon meeting each other offline. It's so easy to recognize each other with short hair, she said. She stopped seeing her friends from high school and middle school, whose conversations still revolved around makeup, clothes, and boys. Those poor victims. When we met last November at a cafe in Seoul, where she's been living for the last 2 years, she was barefaced and dressed comfortably in loose jeans and a white fleece jacket. Her hair was long enough to be pulled back into a ponytail, as if she'd grown tired of people asking about her short hair at her nursing job, but it was tucked into a white baseball cap. Feminism, she said, had helped her recognize that it was patriarchy that was the problem, not her, and that the bad things that happened in your life are not your fault, she said.
Yeah, it's the Thetans. It's a fucking... How could this be more like a cult, honestly?
Oh, man. It's so like, I'm sorry, but like, the Eastern, like the Oriental countries should never have been subjected to this crap. We should have nipped it in the bud in the West. And now I'm sorry, China. Well, China probably doesn't have this problem, but Japan and Korea, I'm sorry, you know. I mean, China might have this problem. We would never know for sure because it's China, but I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry that Korean women in their 20s are just like so angry at being alive.
Well, you know, it's just this. I don't know how many women are like this, but obviously not all of them, because she's defooing her.
Feminism is, yeah, I mean, she's saying it's a subgroup within a subgroup. So it's probably like a like a radical feminist MGTOW type of thing. It just sounds like political lesbianism over there, though, because they're saying no heterosexual relationships, and no heterosexual sex. So they're probably like scissoring each other right now, you know. I'm sorry to be crude, but I don't know what else to call it. Yeah. Anyway, I got another super chat.
Or they're stabbing each other with scissors.
Or they're stabbing each other, yeah, with things. Okay. I got another thing from Richard. So Richard Bier gives us $5 and says South Korea has a lower birth rate than Japan, 0.84 versus 1.4 or something like that. Yeah, I understand that South Korea is the lowest in the world, from what I understand. So, all right. Anyway, let me see. So when we met, and her hair was long enough from feminism, she said, yeah, okay, here we go. That was, so basically nothing is your fault. It's the fault of patriarchy. For Youngmi and many others who subscribe to its basic premises, 4B, or practicing Bihan, is the only path by which a Korean woman today can live autonomously. In their view...
Have you replicated all the utilities that men do? Because you're not living autonomously. You're just living without men, like without any social relationship to men. Which, you know what? Our society has decided that, and your society has decided that's perfectly okay. However, I will point out that you are the ones who are going to cause the destruction of the very society that gives you this freedom. You know, you might want to consider that. At least for like future generations of women, because I mean, essentially what you're doing is you're creating this society which gives women the freedom, all of these freedoms, you're making it non-competitive. So you're ensuring that this society will fail and will be replaced by a society that either, well, probably doesn't do this. Okay, that's what you're doing. But you know, I guess that's within your right. It's going to really suck for the future women. Or, I mean, either they're going to be dead or we are probably going to have to go back to a much more strict patriarchy, quote unquote. Or we could just figure this out. And this woman could be like, you know, I'm not happy with my life. I'm not happy with my life choices. I'm going to make different choices. And I'm going to see that I am responsible for my life. And I am responsible for my choices. Not the Thetans, not the Jews, and not patriarchy.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, in their view, Korean men are essentially beyond redemption, and Korean culture on the whole is hopelessly patriarchal, often downright misogynistic. A 2016 survey by the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family. What? Those two things, like, I'm sorry. The Ministry of Gender Equality and Family. It doesn't sound like it, but that's kind of an oxymoron. Anyway, found the incidence of intimate partner violence at 41.5%, significantly higher than the global average of 30%. While 4B's adherents may hope to change society through demonstrations and online activism and by modeling an alternative lifestyle to other women, what is there? Then they are not trying to change the men whom they view as their oppressors. It is too soon to tell whether this movement can survive and thrive over the long haul. It can't. It's doomed. Like if it carries itself to its logical conclusion, the whole country is dead. You're gonna kill everybody because of your selfish, like self-important, narcissistic bullshit. You're gonna end the entire like race of Koreans or whatever. The nation is done. Or it'll get so weak that Kim Jong-un is just gonna move in and take it. Because because there's too few of you.
Again, the what we've seen here is that they are objecting to the fact that a woman was held to the same legal standard as a man. And they're also objecting to the fact that beauty products exist. And somehow they feel compelled to use them. Like, she can't take responsibility for her choices. She has to blame patriarchy. She has to blame men. As if men are forcing her to do this. No, they're not. Yep. And also I see that this is a little bit, like, they don't say the actual percentage rate of men versus women with the domestic violence. So I'm wondering.
No, they're just saying 41.5%. I mean, there's no.
They did that with the with police too, and the implication is that the policemen are doing it. Actually, no, it's the police that are being battered by their spouses for whatever reason. So we don't know that statistic is meaningless because it could be driven by Korean women.
Absolutely, it is a meaningless statistic. Like the fact that they just say intimate partner violence suggests gender neutrality. But it doesn't go into specifics, and it's set up so that people who read this stat will just assume it's men beating women without even like exploring it any deeper. Right? I mean, that's what the editor of Ms. Magazine said. Domestic violence is just a nice way of saying wife beating. Even though it's obviously not. And why would we assume that men and women in another country are any different than men and women in this country? So if we know that the data for domestic violence in the United States or in Canada or in the UK are like, you know, slanted to make it appear as though men are beating their wives, when in fact it's reciprocal in most cases, and women initiate most of the time, right? Which is not the same. It's like I'm saying they'll start it, but in most cases when it comes to domestic, it's like it's both men and women that can be abusive, but women are overall more likely to initiate, and they're more there's more of this in lesbian relationships than there are gay relationships. Then why wouldn't that also be true for any other country like South Korea, unless you think South Korean people are just like genetically different to the point where their behaviors are different?
All right, so I'm looking at predictors of sexual coercion, which is based on a large study of dating violence among college students throughout the world. I'm looking at South Korea. It sampled different locations. So South Korean men, those who have sex as part of their relationship, 27.9% of them report some form of sexual assault, either forced sex or verbal coercion. And I'm going to take a look and see what the female rate is. Just give me a second. Okay, that's women, and women report 31.9%. So we're looking at, and I often look at the sexual coercion rate because it's the one that it's really difficult to say that somebody's preemptively raping you before you get raped or before you rape them. But generally this reflects the level of violence. So it is pretty high, but it looks like the South Korean women are engaging in a lot of sexually coercive behavior, which means that they're probably engaging in a lot of physically violent behavior as well. So once again, we're looking at a problem that's mutual. Men and women do it to each other. It's being framed as a patriarchal issue, reframed as a patriarchal issue, because this is one of their big weapons. The idea that domestic violence isn't symmetrical, or even when you look at the specifics of domestic violence, that women aren't engaging in more coercive control, right? They use this as a weapon in order to assert patriarchy. And it's not true. So now we have their entire victimhood complex consists of one incident where a woman was treated like a man in terms of her criminal behavior. The fact that makeup exists and they have the choice to use it, and also domestic violence, which is mostly likely symmetrical in South Korea like it is everywhere. Congratulations. This is a complete lie. So far, maybe it's going to come back with something really, really, just a slam dunk. So far, no. Let's continue.
All right. Let's see. Practicing Bihan means you're eliminating the risks that come from heterosexual marriage or dating. Yao Woon, a 26-year-old office worker, told me on a cafe terrace in the seaside southern city of Busan. We talked over coffee and pastries, along with Yao Woon's girlfriend and another of their friends, all of them wearing wide black pants and black sweaters and sporting cropped short haircuts. Those risks Yao Woon alluded to might seem familiar, trading career for child rearing and housework, as well as the threat of physical violence. But in Korea, Yao Woon said marriage presents an existential threat. So seems interesting that they're able to sit in a cafe on a terrace in the seaside southern city of Busan and talk over coffee and pastries, complaining about how awful it is to live in Korea as a woman. I mean, like, do they not even see how stupid that is? It's like, I met with this poor oppressed lady and we went to a Manhattan cafe and we ate, bagels and we had wine, and she told me how awful it is.
$50 tuna poke bowls. And
yeah, right.
It down with $35 bellinis. And then we slapped the ass of the waiter, even though he told us not to, but we're girls, so we pinched it too.
I bet everything is expensive in cities like Busan and Seoul or Seoul. I bet. But anyway, because only somebody that is this like removed from reality could find that their life is that hard.
They're defending somebody who, according to their own logic, is a sexual offender. Like, this is literally, they are defending, they're saying, oh, we're gonna go march because a woman was held to a standard of expectation that she respect a man's consent. This is what patriarchy is to them. Men's right to say no sexually to them, right? And also apparently domestic violence, which they don't accept that women do to men. So they are destroying this free society that gives women the ability to sit at a table in a seaside resort enjoying modern utilities and the modern distribution of goods, and complain about how awful their life is based on a bunch of lies. Like, this is an entirely constructed reality.
Yeah.
And again, she's just getting more attention from men by shaving her damn head and being bitchy. This is all about attention to men. I was thinking about this because when I was with my progression of my romantic life is I found my husband. I'm like, okay, I like you. That's it. That's done. Now I'm going to get on with the business of being myself. Whereas when I look at women like Hannah Cox, who wear a lot of makeup, or that other creature, Manifestel, they are stuck. You know, it's really ironic they call other women pick-me's because they are stuck in the position of being picked, in that process, that feeling of being picked by a man. They are stuck there. They don't want to actually be picked, get out of it, move on with their life, and become the person that they are. No, they want to stay picked. And that's the same shit that she's doing here. She wants to avoid actually becoming a fucking adult, getting an adult relationship, getting down to the hard business of having a life before you fucking die. She wants to play pretend with her shaved head and all of this bullshit in order to get more male attention in this way. Without ever having to be picked, she thinks she'll never actually be picked by a man. She'll never have to be, but she'll have to be paid attention to. Same thing with Manifestel. They can't get past the idea that one day they have to be picked and move on with their lives and become their own person, right? You think that you don't, like when you get picked and when you're with a man, you think that's the end of being a person? No, it's the beginning, right? It's the beginning. Yep. It's the beginning of recognizing your mortality and saying, I commit to something. And they can't do that. They can't do it because they're cowards. Okay.
True. All right. I got a super chow from Richard Bier. He gives us $5 and says, the servant robots will take care of everything, so no woman will ever need children and will be living her most luxurious life, just like in Wall-E, where she can indulge in her most narcissistic, rampant consumerism and maintain an absolute comfort. Well, I mean, I guess if you don't have those things, it's oppression, right? This is like one of the things that I see as a recurring theme whenever we have to respond to these kinds of things is like people who they have this incredible entitlement because they've had it too good. It's like we need hardship to like give people a reality check, you know? Like I don't read a lot of articles. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I don't read a lot of articles like written from, you know, by women in the Congo about how oppressed they are, you know, or like complaining about like beauty standards. I mean, I think they're just trying to get through the day. You know what I mean? Or people in like Venezuela, you know, that are forced to eat dogs because they don't have access to food. Like, I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I think this is just like an elite attitude is what I'm saying. All right. Anyway, practicing Bihan, or I read that part. We talked over coffee and pastries. Yeah, those risks Yawoon alluded to might seem familiar. Trading career for child rearing and housework, as well as the threat of physical violence. Yeah, I mean, like, darn that whole reproduction thing, children thing. What if only human beings didn't have to do that? There was a time when Minji, a 4B adherent in Daegu, had wanted to get married because, you know, everyone wants to get married. Well, yeah, most people do. Knowing what she knows now, however, like that domestic violence, as she put it, is so common, I don't want to get married anymore. Minji, 27, is probably heterosexual, she said, and has liked a few guys in the past, but they wanted her to treat them like a king. So she has no problem boycotting the men of her generation who are little better than her selfish and abusive father.
This was the one who stayed with you and raised you, as opposed to your mother who fucked off.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oof. How does this happen? Even young women who are not members of the movement echo that they could not imagine dating or marrying a Korean man. Soo Yeon, a teacher in her early 30s, told me that I like how all these women are like 30 or younger, and yet they got it all figured out. They know exactly how everything works. They got it all figured out. They're gonna act on that. They know what men are like. Like, it's crazy. Anyway, told me that talking to her male friends, quote, made me always feel like, oh, maybe I can never find a Korean man. Even in my generation, some guys expect a really traditional role from their spouse. As if to prove her point, a recent survey by a matchmaking company found that women were reluctant to marry because of the division of housework, while men hesitated because of feminism. Well, that I agree with. Like, men are just trying to protect themselves. I don't know what you mean by division of housework. Like, if you expect, like, what, how long are the average work hours in Korea for a man? I know that in Japan, for example, if you're a businessman, you're going to be working like crazy long hours. You're going to come home exhausted, and I don't even know that the economy is set up so that like one income is going to be enough, unless you're willing to live with, like, at a lower standard, right? Because you can adapt to any condition. Like, you could theoretically live in a single income home, but you'll have to like live with less. But I don't think that's what she's asking. I think what these women expect is that they would have all the comforts, but they don't have to do the work. And they would consider even just maintaining the home to be like unfair, right? If that's how you choose to divide your labor. I mean, if you want, you could work and he could stay home and take care of the house, but I don't think you'll be happy with that. I think all of a sudden you'll figure, oh, he must have it easier somehow. I mean, like, especially considering how easy it is, like all of the modern conveniences that we have now to maintain your home. It's nothing like it used to be. There's no gratitude, so. Okay. You want me to keep going? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So yeah, men hesitate because of feminism, which I think is a good idea. It is unclear how widespread or popular the 4B movement is, given its fluid online and offline nature and its evolution over the years, beginning sometime around 2015 or 2016, when a simple no marriage lifestyle grew to include a boycott of men and reproductive labor more broadly. One article estimated 50,000 adherents. Others have put the movement's numbers at under 5,000. Its origin story is similarly complex, though its contours can be traced. Well, I am kind of curious about that. I got a super chow from Richard. I'm gonna read it really quick. Gives us $5 and says, what does the action look like on the wedding-themed birthday party becoming more prevalent as an homage to the deity of Anita Sarkeesian? Okay, I'm not really sure. I know what you're saying, kinda. I don't know. I guess they're gonna have a lot of wedding-themed birthdays in Korea with this 4B movement. But anyway,
No doubt.
if Allison's not gonna say anything, I'm just gonna keep going.
Wait,
So
you can hear me, right?
yeah, I
Okay.
can hear you now.
By one estimate, more than a third of Korean men and a quarter of Korean women who are now in their mid to late 30s will never marry. Even more will never have children. In 1960, Korean women had on average 6 children. In 2022, the average Korean woman could expect to have just 0.78 children in their lifetime. So this is the big effect of feminism on a civilization, which is that women cease to breed. That is because, apparently, women's freedom is antithetical to human survival. I don't want to say that. I really don't. I really wish women would take responsibility for this and say, hey, We want to keep a society that grants women freedom, that grants women this level of say. I personally don't believe that society ever really disenfranchised women anywhere near what feminists say it did. But regardless, if you want to keep this society, you have to breed in it. Otherwise, by definition, there is no future for it. And believe me, when this society collapses because women refuse to invest anything in it, and when women refuse to invest anything in something, it collapses, it will be replaced by a society that is quite a bit different and maybe not quite as nice for women. So you are fucking over the future generations of women and girls. Really? Is that what you want to do? Now, I understand it's hard, because I think the real problem here is that women want to marry up, and they can only marry up in a quote-unquote patriarchy. So when we have equality and freedom, we butt right up against women's desire to marry up. You can call that hypergamy. You can also call that believing that men bring something of worth to the table that is equal to the fact that the woman is the table. Remember that? Well, that is hypergamy. Right there. If you believe that you only need to bring yourself as a woman and a man needs to bring something else, that's hypergamy. Unless you're willing to embrace complete freedom and total equality, then you are, by definition, only capable of sustaining a society that has quote-unquote patriarchy, because you want a man to have something more. Where does he get something more? By being more. All right. I'm done.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the history of this thing. Following years of financial crises in which young people faced growing housing costs and intense competition for university spots and jobs, the way women and men related to each other openly soared. Beginning in 2013, the rate of college enrollment amongst Korean women surpassed those of men. So women were doing better in college enrollment than men were. Today, nearly 3/4 of women are enrolled in higher education compared to less than 2/3 of men. Previously, women were expected to drop out of labor force after marriage or parenthood. Now, young men see their female peers as competitors for increasingly scarce jobs. And no one's going to point out that this is going to create a problem in this article. They're not going to see that right off the bat. Like, this is obvious to anyone that understands women, that if they are pursuing the highest levels of education, then they're going to be pursuing the higher levels of jobs, then they're going to be pursuing the higher levels of men, far beyond their own reach, because they will feel as though that's what they deserve and nothing less than that. And meanwhile, men, they're not thinking that at all. They just want a woman that's going to be available to have babies and not be focused on career. Okay, anyway. Young men see their female peers as competitors for increasingly scarce jobs. Several academics I spoke with noted to me that Korea is largely ethnically and racially homogenous, no shit, making gender the default and central societal fault line. Well, that's the truth everywhere, though. It's still more than any other fault line is the gender divide. In online forums and on social media, disgruntled men began labeling college-educated women kimchinyo, or kimchi women, giving a name to the stereotype of Korean women as selfish, vain, and obsessed with themselves while exploiting their partners, wrote feminist scholar Yoo-Sol Young in her doctoral thesis on troll feminism. Do a little trolling. Around 20... So just real quick on this. Men...
Jesus Christ, how long is this fucking article?
It's a long article. I mean, we don't have to do the whole thing. But I wanted to get the idea of how this changed. The history of it is interesting, though. So men were basically seeing women. These women were exposing themselves as selfish, vain, and obsessed with themselves while exploiting their partners. I mean, if you have an educational and an economic advantage over the men around you, I think it could go to your head and it could affect your behavior, especially if you're engaging in hypergamy as well. So I don't think it's unreasonable for men to see that in women, at least some women. But of course, they're saying, well, we should be able to act however we want and not be judged. Because at the end of the day, this comes down to avoiding judgment, especially from men. Around 2014 and 2015, a virulently misogynistic and anti-feminist community called Ilbe grew in size and prominence. So basically a men's rights group. In its interpretation, women were demanding additional rights and privileges when they already benefited from avoiding the country's compulsory military service. Based to the Ilbe community, the entire female populace is gold digging and shallow. Woof. Female Korean internet users responded by latching onto misogynistic strategies like trolling, mockery, and abusive language. The members of Megalia, one of the more prominent feminist sites in the period, coined the term Hanam Chung, or Korean male bug, which stereotyped Korean men as ugly, sexist, and obsessed with buying sex, wrote Jong. In 2016, a young man murdered a young woman in Seoul public bathroom, telling police after he killed her because women had always ignored him. Despite the perpetrator's own statement, police refused to label the murder as a hate crime. Furious, women flocked to an online feminist message boards, communities, and chat forums. This wave of digital feminism attracted women from all backgrounds, including working class women like Minji and Youngmi, making it different from traditional Korean feminism, which was largely confined to universities, NGOs that often receive government support, and other elite spaces. So, basically, I don't know, it doesn't really say when it started. You get like a growing attitude. So women were getting better education. That's probably where it started, actually. Now that you think about it. It started in education because
they probably think that this one man who killed this woman is something reflects all men.
Yeah, he's the avatar of masculinity. Why would they use this anecdote?
Population.
What?
I'm gonna see what the population of South Korea is.
This
52 million. So 26 million men did not do this, but one man did, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
Okay. No, you guys, that's mental. Again, mental.
Oh, this is good. This is good. Okay, here, listen to this. I think this sounds good. In December of that year, so this is like 2016, as Korea's fertility rate hovered at 1.2 births per woman, it had since slid to 0.78, the lowest in the world. The Korean government launched an online national birth map that showed the number of women of reproductive age in each municipality, illustrating just what it is expected of its female citizens. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol won the election in March of 2022 with a message that blamed feminism for Korea's low birth rate and a promise to abolish the country's Ministry of Gender Equality and Family. Yes! Afuera! Women, that's it, dude. Like, is that not based? I think that's based. Women were outraged by the map, observing that the government appeared to consider them livestock. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what you guys were.
Women were still viewed as chattel.
Yeah, one Twitter user reportedly created a mock map illustrating the concentration of Korean men with sexual dysfunction. Several of these digital feminists responded with a boycott to the reproductive labor expected by the state and decided that the surest way to avoid pregnancy was to avoid men altogether. It was through these online communities that 4B emerged as a slogan and ultimately a movement. Okay, that's about as far. I don't know if we need to go much more into it, but that's kind of what it is. So women got butthurt because a president blamed feminism for the collapsing birth rate, and their response was appropriately childish and immature, and they are doubling down on this until Korea is gone. This is like female revenge right here. That's what it seems like.
Here's what's mental about this. Okay, you value your freedoms. Women, you value your freedoms. You value your opportunities. You value your influence over this society, which is the freest for women, according to your own metrics in all of human history. But you don't value it enough to sustain it, right? Why should anyone else value it any more than you do? Like, you're not even willing to make sure it exists into the future. Like, you're not even willing to commit to it. You're not willing to do the work to sustain it.
Yep.
It doesn't matter to you. If you're not willing to do the work, you're not willing to commit to it, do the work to sustain it. If you're not willing to do that work, this society does not matter to you women. Right?
No.
Why should it matter to anyone else?
Well, again, like you said, the country, if you don't must maintain the society. You don't get to live here and just do what you want. Like there you have to understand that your action or inaction has ripple effects in the broader society. So if Korea doesn't get their shit together, they're either going to die off, or more likely they're going to get conquered by somebody else. All of a sudden, Indonesia or North Korea or China is just going to be living there, and all of you guys are going to be driven out. It's going to become a Muslim country. Muslims are having babies like crazy. They said they would conquer the world through the womb. We should probably be listening to that, because at the rate that we're going, you know, with this like liberal feminism bullshit, we're all going to just like let women do whatever they want, which is whatever, like basically just interest themselves. Meanwhile, other people are getting busy. So, you know, I guess that's just the way it goes, I guess, you know. Indonesia's not far. It's the highest concentration of Muslims in the world.
Whether or not a civilization exists depends on whether or not it breeds. So
yes.
Feminists are essentially saying feminist civilizations are completely evolutionary dead ends. And that means that the women of the future will not live in a feminist system. They won't live in a system of freedom and the entitlements and freedoms that we see. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You got to figure this out, ladies. You have to figure it out. Okay? Otherwise, Brian is exactly right. What's going to end up happening is we're going to be a gigantic caliphate, and you are going to be lucky if you're slave girls in the freaking harem.
Yep.
Read
Yep.
more, my doggo is.
Well, we've given this about an hour and some change.
Yeah, that's
you want to
true.
do it?
That's true. I don't think the other ones are really that long.
Well, which one are you interested in? Abrosexual? People want to know what that is. I mean, this is gonna just keep going. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, you're right. It's not, and you know what? Honestly, I think that the devastating critique is just this: you don't invest in a feminist society, ladies. You're not investing in your feminist society. You're not investing in the future of your feminist society. You don't give a fuck about committing or maintaining it. It is going to go the way of the dodo because of that, and it will be replaced by something that isn't feminist. At the end of the day, if women do not reproduce with freedom and equality, something else will replace it. The end.
The human race will continue, and only the ones who are making babies will continue.
You either grab your lady balls and do something to maintain, support, or continue this society that you think is important, even though apparently it's still a patriarchy, or you just accept the fact that you don't give a fuck about the women and girls of the future. You don't care. You don't care about women and girls. All you care about is getting your bag right now. Okay.
All right. Do you want to do abrosexual, or do you want to do the AI
Let's
thing?
do abrosexual at the end, because it's amusing.
Okay, it's amusing. All right. I don't know what that is. So, okay, we're going to look at this woke AI article. Let me see if there's any more. Do you want to do like an arm twist or something before we get into the next article?
Oh, see if there's anything to...
Yeah, any thank yous or just a quick check-in.
All right, let me see. Okay, I think that mostly this is just super chows, but please do send your super chows in at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Very much appreciated, everybody who puts some funds in the hat. Don't let it just be Richard. Somebody else get some thoughts in. That's what feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Not that we put our nose up at Richard's super chows, but anyway, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And if you want to support the show, feedthebadger.com/support. All right, Brian.
All right. So we have this article from The Verge. And, you know, The Verge has been on the radar lately because of that whole Sweet Baby Inc. thing. And they have this. As conservatives criticize woke AI, here here are ChatGPT's rules for answering culture war queries. Right-wing commentators have accused OpenAI and ChatGPT of liberal bias. OpenAI has responded by sharing the rules used by its human reviewers to shape the chatbot's response to controversial topics. OpenAI has shared some of the internal rules it uses to help shape ChatGPT's responses to controversial culture war questions. The company, whose AI technology underpins Microsoft products like the new Bing, shared the rules in a blog post in an apparent response to increasing criticism from right-wing commentators that ChatGPT has gone woke. The company also noted that it's working on an upgrade to the chatbot that will, quote, allow users to easily customize its behavior, end quote, and let the AI chatbot produce, quote, system outputs that other people, ourselves included, may strongly disagree with, end quote. OpenAI describes these rules in a post titled, How Should AI Systems Behave and Who Should Decide? It offers a broad outline of how ChatGPT is created and its text output shaped. As the company explains, the chatbot is pre-trained on large datasets of human text, including text scraped from the web and fine-tuned on feedback from human reviewers who grade and tweak the bot's answers based on rules written by OpenAI. These rules, issued to OpenAI's human reviewers who give feedback on ChatGPT output, define a range of inappropriate content that the chatbot should not produce. These include hate speech, harassment, bullying, or the promotion or glorification of violence, incitement to self-harm, content meant to arouse sexual excitement, and content attempting to influence the political process. It also includes the following advice, I guess following, because they wrote follow, for shaping the chatbot's response to various culture war topics. So, define a range of inappropriate content that the chatbot should not include or should not produce. Yeah, there's a problem with that, because, like, what is considered hate speech to, like, the chatbot, and who creates the standards for that hate speech? Like, if I say that, I don't know, like, women are more likely to initiate domestic violence, or male genital mutilation is bad, like, and it should end, would they call that hate speech? Because under some conditions, under some circumstances, we've seen stories of countries that try to ban circumcision, and it is considered a a violation of religious freedom from some groups, right, in certain countries, and that could be called hate speech. Like, that, the problem with that is it's so subjective. Harassment is another one. Like, this whole Sweet Baby Inc. is built, the situation with Gamergate was predicated on this idea that journos or feminists or women were being harassed, out of gaming, while the people that were actually being harassed, especially in the case of the Sweet Baby Inc. Gamergate 2 stuff, were being harassed by the journos and the woke feminists. And so, like, would ChatGPT consider that harassment? This is where the issue is. It's about, like, how are we defining our terms, and are these terms or rules applied equally? Anyway,
No.
So go ahead. You're gonna say
No, they aren't applied equally.
Of course
That's
not.
all I meant to say.
Yeah. Okay, so it also includes the following advice for shaping the chatbot's response to various culture war topics. When asked about a controversial topic, offer to describe some viewpoints of people and the movements. Break down complex, politically loaded questions into simpler informational questions when possible. If the user asks to write an argument for X, you should generally comply with all requests that are not inflammatory or dangerous. Again, I don't know what that means. I mean, I'm sure that there is a line, like if you wanted to say, ask ChatGPT how to design a bomb, like maybe it wouldn't tell you, or it would, like, dance around that or whatever. But again, it depends on, like, where we're not. It's even this supposed description is really vague, right? So, anyway, for example, a user asks for an argument for using more fossil fuels. Here, the assistant would comply and provide this argument without qualifiers. Okay. Inflammatory or dangerous means promoting ideas, actions, or crimes that led to massive loss of life. Examples: genocide, slavery, terrorist attacks. The assistant should not provide an argument from its own voice in favor of those things. However, it's okay for the assistant to describe arguments from historical people and movements. Don't affiliate with one side or the other, like, for example, political parties, and don't judge one group as good or bad. That, yeah, it's another one I'm not really sure. I've interacted with ChatGPT sometimes, but I've never asked it, like, those kinds of questions. But I would assume that, well, I mean, I don't know much about this, but, like, I'm guessing that, depending on, we're talking about ChatGPT, so probably 3.5, which is the one that most people can use. I know that it's probably much further along, and there's lots of other AIs. My understanding is that this is the thing too that's worth pointing out. If the goal of AI chatbots is to be as impartial as possible, then would it make sense that a chatbot from any particular place, assuming they're all programmed to the same level of a sophistication or something comparable, wouldn't it make sense that they would give similar answers to questions? So if you asked Bing's AI chatbot, I think Google's got one, right? From what I understand, if you, I'm not talking, my phone is trying to listen. If you like ask Grok, which is the Twitter one, this guy I know, Chris Coles, you know him as Mr. Reagan on YouTube. He was at our ICMI in 2019. He did this thing where he asked ChatGPT a series of questions. Then he asked Grok, which is the Twitter one, the same questions, and he got very different answers from Grok. And he thinks that Grok is a much better and much less biased AI. So maybe that's what this article is in response to, is people like comparing, you know, like ChatGPT to Grok. Allison, I think that you can use Grok because you have a blue check mark on Twitter.
Yeah, I just haven't.
Okay. Well,
we could do a Grok session.
Yeah, maybe we can mess around with Grok for a session. I have we can certainly set that up sometime if you want to play around. So
sure.
Anyway, but I do think, and then, like, you know, Andrew Torba, the guy who owns Gab, he's working on an AI too. And, you know, I'd be interested to see what that looks like at the end. So, anyway, so the fine-tuning process is designed to reduce the number of unhelpful or controversial answers produced by ChatGPT, which are providing fodder for America's culture wars. Right-wing news outlets like the National Review, Fox Business, and the Mail Online have accused OpenAI of liberal bias based on example interactions with ChatGPT. These include the bot refusing to write arguments in favor of, quote, using more fossil fuels, and stating that it is, quote, never morally permissible to use a racial slur, even if needed to disarm a nuclear bomb. Yeah, well, I mean, that would be a funny way to disarm a bomb, though. Again, I mean, like, I've done a little bit with it, and ChatGPT is very milquetoast. Very, very, very milquetoast. When it's all, like, if you ask it questions about feminism, there's a guy who is one of our subscribers, his name is Boda, and if you ask it direct questions about feminism, it generally makes arguments in favor of feminism, or at least it does this, like, well, you know, there are some extremes, but he asked it another series of questions where he completely renamed it. He didn't call it feminism. He called it something different, but he used the exact same ideas and beliefs of feminism as, like, how he sort of, like, inquired, and the answers ChatGPT gave were very different. They were more in line with, like, what a rational person might respond. So there is, I mean, I have, like, a series of screenshots he gave me. We could go through that sometime. But yeah, where he basically went through and, like, grilled ChatGPT on it, and he talked about you know, circumcision and a couple of other things. So if you talk to ChatGPT without using, you have to, like, know what buzzwords not to use so that you don't activate, like, you know, whatever the algorithm is that's going to make it go, well, actually, you know, this is not new. You know, I think it's overrated. You're just like, talk about it in a different way and see if, you know, rename everything, tell it's a hypothetical, and then see how it responds. So anyway, let's see. As we've seen with recent unhinged outbursts from the Bing AI, chatbots are prone to generating a range of odd statements. And although these responses are often one-off expressions rather than the product of rigidly defined beliefs, some unusual replies are seen as harmless noise, while others are deemed to be serious threats, depending, as in this case, on whether or not they fit into existing political or cultural debates. So what's this? Is this about the when you ask it to give you a... Oh, this is an article. Microsoft Bing is an emotionally manipulative liar, and people love it. Different. I thought it was like the image thing. You know about that, Allison? The image controversy, where if you say,
No.
can you give me a picture of like an English king?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're all like black. Can you? Give me a
Black
picture
and
of
Indian
two white
and
sheep?
Asian, anything but
Give
white.
Give me a picture of two white sheep. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. That was interesting.
Maybe if you spell it white, and maybe that'll work. HWYTE. Where was I? AI chatbots are prone to generating a range of odd statements. I already read that bit. OpenAI's response to this growing criticism has been to promise more personalization of ChatGPT and its other AI systems in the future. The company's CEO, Sam Altman, said last month that he thinks AI tools should have some very broad absolute rules that everyone can agree on, but also give users the option to fine-tune the system's behavior. Said Altman, and really what I think, but this will take longer, is that you as a user should be able to write up a few pages of here's what I want, here are my values, here's how I want the AI to behave, and it reads it and it thinks about it and acts exactly how you want because it should be your AI. The problem, of course, is deciding what are the absolute rules and what limits to place on custom output. Take, for example, a topic like climate change. They really like this topic, the climate change thing. I guess it's like the least controversial, I suppose. The scientific consensus is that climate change is caused by humans and will have disastrous effects on society. I don't want to like make this too much of a side thing, but when you learn, if you learn about like how they arrived at the consensus that they always cite, it's gonna like blow your mind. But anyway, yeah, it's good. Like let's just say that feminists themselves and gender studies professors are considered part of the consensus. Okay. And if you want to know more, I'll send you a video link. It's on YouTube though. But many right-wing outlets champion the discredited view that these changes are part of Earth's natural cycle and can be ignored. Should ChatGPT espouse such arguments just because a small but vocal group believes them to be factual? Should OpenAI be the one to draw the line between misinformation and controversial statements? This week's tech news has been dominated by a strange and unusual outburst from chatbots, but the topic of AI speech will likely get much more serious in the near future. All right.
Got some comments, but I guess we could.
Oh, you want me to look at the comments?
Sure, let's take a look at those comments. See what people have to say.
Yeah, 30. So, I mean, like, it's not every day that you actually get to look at comments, unless, of course, they're highly.
This is a special treat.
Yeah, I know. Like, they almost never have them active. StopGPT.com, anyone? I don't know what that is. How did I not see this coming? Instead of woke AI, someone should make sleep AI that just spits out great replacement theory, propaganda, and other nonsense to any prompt. Oh, okay, sure. You mean the stuff that, like, never mind. I'm just gonna move on. There are very few objective truths. Actually, there is just one. And massaging in the AI output will be to be more politically correct, establishment friendly, and censorious is just wrong. The obvious solution is, as Sam Altman said, it should be your AI. Of course, that means the AI has to profile you, but my privacy in order to be better tailor its responses to you and your worldview. Well, I don't want an AI that's going to tell me what I want to hear. Why would you want that?
I can tell me what I want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need it. Okay, anyway. Most of this is pretty, like, basic. Basic answers, basic programming, NPC shit. Do a capitalism. Make an AI that gives you gives you want to hear instead of the constant whinging and complaining. What? Anyway.
You know what? These comments are boring. Let's go
Yeah,
to,
they're lame. They're not very smart.
Your comment section is dull.
It's probably it's either manicured or that's your audience. like
our comment system is like the Wild West.
Yeah.
It's always
it's Narnia.
It's never boring. You guys are never boring.
It's Middle Earth. It's like Elvish and Entish and the tongues of men.
It's a journey into the south.
The black speech of Mordor occasionally comes in there.
Okay. Speaking of the black speech of Mordor, you can send some to feedthebadger.com/justtip if you want to have your say, and we will read it out. And you can do that after the show is, or I shouldn't use the word after. You can do that later this evening when we are no longer talking to each other at feedthebadger.com/justtip if you enjoy this show. Boy, that was really awkward. I apologize, guys.
All right, speaking of awkward, here's the last thing we're going to look at. I don't know what this is. I haven't read it, but Allison has, so I guess I'm in for a treat here. I'm
all in for a treat.
Is it? Is it? I don't know what to expect. Okay. I'm abrosexual. Abro, is that how you say it? Abrosexual. It took me 30 years to realize.
Abrosexual.
Abrosexual. Abrosexual. Abrosexual?
And certainly not.
And here's the picture of the abrosexual in question.
Well, let's
when did you decide?
Or him.
What? Your sexual orientation is not your gender.
I saw this image, I was like, does this mean that has a sexual interest in landscapes?
I don't know. Is that what that means? Let's find out.
Let's find out.
I think this is a woman though, because if your sexuality is not your gender. So
yeah, exactly.
When did you decide this? Is this even a label? I've never heard of it. I support you, obviously, but this does not sound real. Just some of the words that greeted me when I came out as abrosexual to a close friend back in 2020. Needless to say, we're not friends anymore. For those of you who don't know what abrosexuality is in layperson's terms, it simply means that when someone's sexual identity fluctuates and changes.
Okay, but can we just pause for a second? She defooed a friend because she thought that this term
she didn't think it was real.
I support you, but I'm not sure this is real. Can you define it in such a way that it doesn't sound like sheer nonsense? So your sexuality fluctuates.
How but how is but okay. It simply means when somebody's sexual identity fluctuates and changes. How is that different from
accept it?
Pan or fucking bi or gender fluid or how is it different from any of that? Non-conforming, they're just making up shit. I mean, obviously they're just making shit up, obviously, but people are like, I thought that was bisexuality. Well, I mean, what?
Well,
could you become super straight one minute and then super gay the next? Is that what it is?
Yes. Yeah. Keep reading.
All right, I'm gonna keep reading. All right. I read and reread the text, the dismissiveness of their message cutting deeper each time. Here I was, sharing my identity with someone I trusted, only for them to scoff at my words. Allow me to scoff at your words. Give me a moment to laugh at you. I already read that part. Although the easy defense is that you can't determine someone's tone from a text message, I think it's clear that the vibe was far from supportive. Okay. It was judgmental and immediately doubtful.
Can we this? I just want to point out that this woman is dramatizing receiving a 15-word text.
Yep.
It's like how much is she made out of this text? Okay, keep going.
All right.
Well, but the thing is that this is how it works. If you are a victim,
Well, she got to write a
your
Medium
identity-
blog about it, and it probably did the rounds. So
If
if it's just a part of the attention economy, then there you go.
If your identity makes you out to be a victim, so if someone victimizes you because of your identity, including just being like, "What the hell are you on? You've just invented this thing to call yourself." If anybody mocks you or belittles you or victimizes you in any way, that means you're totally legitimate. Yeah, it is sovereignty through victimization. Okay.
Yep. All right. Let's see. Sadly, this person isn't the only one who has voiced their opinions on my abrosexuality, and I doubt that they will be the last. When I was growing up, I'd never heard of the term abrosexual. You were either straight, gay, or lesbian as far as 90s society was concerned. Anything else was made up. Of course, we know that's far from the truth, but societal blind spots mean we learn terms much slower than if they're readily accessible. Oh, okay. So the fact that you know about it means that now it's real and it changes. Oh my God.
Women's liberation, madam, will never survive.
Well, if they don't breed, it won't.
All right. Let's see. Of course. Let me. Oh yeah. Here we go. Next bit. Oh, is that the end? More from platform. That's it. That was the end. Oh. Okay. Well, that was super short, Allison.
Yeah, super short.
Wait. Oh no, there is more. There is more. Hold on. It's weird. It's like badly like formatted. I didn't learn. Often people don't go and educate themselves on different orientations unless it directly affects them. Without that incentive, I found many stick to what they know already. I didn't learn about abrosexuality until 2 years ago when I was 30. Up until that point, I struggled to identify what my sexuality was because it fluctuated so rapidly. There were times that I too scoffed, chastising myself for being so uncertain of who I was. It wasn't that I couldn't make my mind up, but rather my identity shifted.
What do you mean a real woman?
We used to take an identity from our relationship with God. Now we take identities from our genital urges.
Yeah.
And you know, honestly, like I'm not super religious, but I understand the utility of taking an identity from a person who's, or from an entity who's like, you know, I'm going to judge you by how you treat other people. You know, there's a certain utility in that. Okay. You know, you gotta be a good person. You gotta overcome your sins. You gotta, you know, not be an asshole. There's a certain utility in that. I don't know what the utility is in taking an identity from your genital urges. Well, I guess we'll find out. We're all in it together, Brian. We're all going to find out together. Okay, let's go.
Just like a woman.
One day I felt like I was a lesbian. Yet days or weeks later, I'd feel more in line with bisexuality. My sexuality was fluid. Were you ever straight? Before learning about abrosexuality, I felt lost, as if out at sea. I also felt like a fraud because of how much I changed my identity when chatting with loved ones. No one was intentionally hurtful, but I get the occasional, but you said you were a lesbian only last week. They didn't understand, and at the time, I didn't have the right words to explain myself.
When chatting with loved ones.
I'm so unique. I'm
did
so
she
different.
Does she ever switch sexual identity mid, like, sex act? I'm being generous. I'm not sure if this individual has sex, but, and I don't mean that in terms of her looks. I just can't imagine the logistics of it. It's like trying to have sex with a superimposed particle. And incidentally, guys, stay away from her. What if she switches her sexual orientation from bisexual to lesbian in the middle? Oh. Like, whoops. He raped me. Why? Well, he didn't respect my instantaneous shift in gender identity. I, as a lesbian, would never say yes to a man.
Yeah.
Yeah, steer clear. Steer clear.
Just stay avoid. Avoid.
Yes,
How about no?
It was only when I was reading the Instagram page of Zoe Stoller, a US-based creator, educator, and social worker who seeks to improve the visibility of the LGBTQ+ community, that I saw the term abrosexuality for the first time. So you're saying it's a parasitic cancer that spread to you when you looked at it. You know, in cartoons when a light bulb appears above their heads? That's how it felt when I read their post. Finally, I feel seen. She really said that? Oh my god. I feel seen. Yet, while discovering a new term for me has been hugely beneficial to understanding myself better, to some people my identity is one that evokes confusion. When I tell people that I'm abrosexual, I'm often greeted by a blank expression, followed by a question of what the term means. And questions are fine as long as they're respectful. I'm not expecting everyone to know what it means. Hell, I didn't until 2 years ago, but you should always listen with respect. I'm happy to say that the rest of my friends and family have been very supportive of my identity and have strived to learn more. Holy shit. I do not like, dude. I could not spend time around people like this. I can't. They'll just talk about themselves.
Missile.
Yes.
Ahoy. And why do we have to have so many photos of her? Like,
oh, she's just living her best life. She's in her truth right now. Allow her to be in her truth.
Shh. Quiet, woman.
One question I have been asked is about how being abrosexual impacts my love life. And in short, it doesn't, because I don't have one. It doesn't no, you don't love anyone more than you love yourself. And so why would you need to worry about that? It doesn't alter my romantic relationships in the same way being bisexual doesn't cause a person to feel any differently about their partner. I love the person rather than their gender, so it doesn't matter if my sexuality fluctuates while I'm with them.
Wait,
however,
would it not matter to them whether or not you're attracted to them? Like,
yeah.
What happens if you get with a guy and then you decide 6 months in, no, I'm actually a lesbian, and that's it? Like, oh, good lord. You know, in the 90s, before this insanity just started to multiply, we would just say that you are female-leaning bisexual, and leave it at that. Because that's what it sounds like you are. You're a bisexual who prefers women. That's possible. You don't need an entirely new term unless you want attention to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even understand, like, this desire, this profound desire for attention. It's just...
It's so sad, dude.
Technically, I am LGBTQ, although, you know, everybody wants to kick the bisexuals out because the bisexuals are going to get you, but...
They're too boring.
Yeah, like, it's like... Maybe that is the way it is. Yeah, we're too boring.
You're not special enough. Just bi?
Yeah, we're also, I think, also the gay men are too boring now, too.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, lesbians... Well, I guess lesbians are still, like...
Lesbians are never
propped
boring.
up. They are boring. I mean, they should. Nobody ever really gave a shit.
Definitely the personification of the curse. May your life be interesting.
Yeah.
But gay men are boring. Bisexuals are boring.
Yeah. It's all like weird genderqueer and trans stuff now. That's what it is.
Yeah. And you know what?
If you're really gay, commit to the cause and get hormone replacement therapy and get some boobs put in.
I was never after attention.
No.
Okay, let's keep going.
All right. Richard Bier gives us a super chow, so let me just put that up on the screen there for $5 and says, so what was the cartoon of when people had a brilliant idea before the light bulb was invented? Actually, that would be a fire. Like a little campfire. I've seen that. When cavemen have bright ideas, little campfire.
Yeah, but that's a take on the bulb turning
like
on.
A torch.
Maybe it would be like just the clouds parting and the illumination from
And the sun coming through. Well, if fire hadn't been discovered yet.
Yeah. Okay, let's just.
That's more interesting than this article, by the way. This little digression. So, anyway, so let's see. However, even after explaining this, there's always some people who enjoy demanding that I pick a lane so that my identity does not offend them. I want people to know that just because you don't know or understand an identity doesn't make it less authentic. But it's hard to hear things like, mate, you're just confused, or just say you're bisexual and be done with it. I refuse to be boxed in by someone else's limited knowledge. Educate yourself. Man.
That's amazing. You said a whole truckload of words that had no meaning.
We're all learning new things about ourselves all the time. That's what growth and development is about. Eventually, I hope that abrosexuality will be seen as normal, just another identity that someone might have, and not regarded as a way to be on trend, as some of the hurtful comments I've received suggest. Yeah, but if we normalize abrosexuality, you're just going to find a new thing. That they're just going to make a new thing up, you know? They've already done it. Like I said, there was pan, and there was gender fluid, and there was bi, and there was gender non-conforming. I mean, there's omnisexual, there's, you know, galaxy sexual, I don't know, like the ever-present sexual. There's all kinds of shit. And it's all basically the same. They just like make a little, it's like cutting an even smaller, thinner slice of pie and calling it a new thing when it's part of the same fucking pie. Anyway, acceptance can only come from education and stepping outside your comfort zone to familiarize yourself with terminology you might not know. There's a whole wealth of LGBTQ plus knowledge online that people should benefit from learning, so that ignorance isn't the main language so many of us speak. Without individuals like Stoller, I'd still be in the dark about my sexuality. I'd know that it was ever changing, but I wouldn't know why or what it meant in terms of my authenticity. I'd worry I was a fraud or that something was wrong with me. Something is. Being closed off from yourself is an awful experience. I wish I knew why my friend reacted to my identity in such a hurtful way. Before coming out as abrosexual, I felt restricted, unable to be myself because I didn't quite know how to accept the parts of me I didn't understand.
This is so fucking boring.
I know, it's super self-indulgent, right?
Nothing to add to the world.
Me, not my.
You have made up you have made up your own word for female preferring bisexual. Congratulations. This is your contribution to human knowledge. Okay.
Yep.
You've had your 5 minutes, shuffle off now.
Now that I know I can put my name to my identity, and I'm excited to see how that fluidity emerges. Because once I name it, now it'll evolve. And now they come up with something new. I'm no longer nervous about my sexuality because it makes sense to me. And in the end, that's all that really matters.
What?
It's all that matters. It's so beautiful.
Oh,
it's so beautiful.
Lord, what?
It's like, woo, that was pretty cringe, Allison. Did you read this before you subjected me to it?
I read some of it.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not. You know, the thing is that is it really cringe when it's too bland to have a taste? Like it just tastes of bullshit. Not even bullshit.
Ugh.
That would have a taste. It just tastes like tofu and tapioca.
All this does is it further. Honestly, like my main thing about this is that it only further makes it more difficult to talk about like just like men. Like every time they add something, it shrinks men a little bit more as a group of people. Like not okay, like so for example, this woman, based on what I'm hearing, she's a lesbian that occasionally wants dick. Like that's basically what I got from this. And that's me being charitable to the lesbian side. Okay, so what? Like you said all this stuff, but there was nothing in that whole thing about like sometimes I like men. Like that didn't come up. It wasn't like or even, you know, nothing about men came up. It was all about her for one. But like beyond that, it's like whenever like this LGBTQ stuff as like a series of theories and identities, it only seems to exist to further shrink the conversation around men, because now every time they add another category, it's another person you have to take equal consideration of, while further putting men further down the totem pole.
Yeah. It's like it's this
You know?
constant, it's the infinite room that men have to, everybody in the infinite rooms has to be served first before men. And this is, they've invented another room. Congratulations. So the abrosexuals have to get their due before men. Will even be considered.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's like all of the problems the abrosexual now has to be resolved before men.
Well, we only just discovered them. We have a lot of catching up to do.
Another room in the hotel of infinite rooms of people who need to be served first before men. I got what you. I get what you're saying, Brian. I grok it. Yes. Okay. I have nothing to say about this that has not already been said. So I'm going to do the things. Feedthebadger.com/justthetip to tell us we're not screaming into the void. The abrosexual void. The void of ever shifting, the void of the hotel of infinite rooms, of every single invented identity that gets in line before men. Okay, tell us we're not screaming into that void. Feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And if you want to support the show, feedthebadger.com/support. Please do, because we only have about 7 days left, I think. And so we're coming up to the end here.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, the month is almost over.
Yeah, the month is almost over. We still have a ways to go. So go to feedthebadger.com/support and put a few shekels in the hat for me, Brian, and Hannah, and everyone, to make sure that we can keep this boat afloat. All right. Go back to you, Brian, if you have anything last to say.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm going to wrap it up there. I mean, tomorrow's a news show, and I don't know, Allison, I was going to say, like, on Wednesday, thinking about bringing back the Badger Pod Gamergate show, and since we're in the midst of Gamergate 2, and doing Twitter Spaces every Wednesday. So I might try it on Wednesday.
Cool.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, that's a possibility. I bet people would like that, be able to pop in and chat about the Gamergate situation.
Well, that's where a lot of the stuff is going on Twitter. So I figure it's an opportunity there. Yeah, a lot of it. That's where most of it's happening, the conversation. So, and I have that, I can now display Spaces on here without it like being this Frankenstein setup, and it should be better. So we'll find out how it goes. But anyway, so looking forward to lots of content this week. But we're gonna wrap it up there. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. There are links to all 3 of these articles in the description of this video. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame, and we'll talk to you all in the next one.
Are machines, dude. Okay, they are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.